Long before they walked the earth, zombies haunted the human imagination, tracing back to 17th century Haiti. For the enslaved people brought there from Africa, the greatest fear was eternal, hellish servitude. They believed that even suicide offered no escape, as their bodies could be reanimated and forced to toil forever. That folklore eventually drifted into American pop culture, surfacing in the 1932 film White Zombie. But the modern cinematic touchstone began with Richard Matheson's I Am Legend, the story that eventually became the Will Smith blockbuster. While the original monsters were never called zombies, it established the core idea of a lone survivor struggling against a plague of the infected. In 1968, George Romero released Night of the Living Dead, referring to his creatures as ghouls. A clerical error by the distributor left the film without a copyright, which sent it straight into the public domain. Late-night cable stations across the country began broadcasting it for free, making the concept of a zombie plague universally recognizable. Over the following decades, the genre reached its peak with properties like The Walking Dead. We treated these stories as psychological tools, a way to safely manage our anxieties about societal collapse through an escapist lens. It was a world of total chaos we could experience and then simply turn off. That comfort ended in 2021. The first actual infected individuals appeared in China, replacing the cinematic tropes with a grim physical reality. The Chinese government initially met the outbreaks with strict secrecy, keeping the first-turned individuals hidden from the public. This silence, combined with a global population that viewed zombies as an impossible movie trope, allowed the virus to take root while the rest of the world remained in denial. As the truth began to leak, the SCP Foundation took control. Recognizing the virus as a laboratory leak, they identified specific blue zones and immediately closed their borders. They managed to isolate these regions before the rest of the international community even understood the threat. This psychological barrier proved to be the virus's greatest advantage. Because humanity viewed a zombie plague as fiction, the collective refusal to take the threat seriously provided the infection the time it needed to become uncontainable. By early 2022, the situation in China turned critical. Italy became the first nation outside Asia to record an outbreak. The infection poured across the border, spreading into France and southeastern Europe. In months, the Mediterranean front completely dissolved. Even as nations desperately tried to ground flights, commercial air travel remained the primary vector. The speed of the infection meant that passengers could board while seemingly healthy and land as active carriers, bypassing every ground-based quarantine. This chaotic spread triggered the immediate failure of global supply chains. As logistics networks seized up, the infrastructure of the modern world became a liability, leaving countries without the resources to mount a coordinated defense. Our highly interconnected society provided the perfect environment for the virus. The same systems that allowed for global trade and travel ensured that no region could remain isolated for long. By late summer 2022, both North America and Japan had fallen. In the United States, the attempt to build a Great Wall to protect the western coast proved too little, too late. By winter, the zombie hordes moved across the Asian continent. They reached the Great Wall of China in the north and engaged in a brutal, sustained conflict with the Vietnamese coalition in the south. In early 2023, nations began a desperate mass mobilization and border closure. Amidst burning conflicts in North Africa, researchers finally identified a specific biological weakness in the infected. Scorching desert temperatures dehydrated the zombies, significantly slowing their movement. This discovery allowed for the first successful large-scale evacuations, as people moved deeper into the arid desert to put distance between themselves and the horde. While Brazil managed to contain the spread within its borders, Central America fell rapidly. The virus's path was uneven, dictated more by local response and geography than by national wealth. Traditional infantry tactics had become obsolete. Success no longer meant holding a street or a city. It meant retreating behind extreme geographical or climactic barriers, like deserts or mountain ranges, that the virus's biology couldn't efficiently navigate. The European front continued to deteriorate. Poland and Russia were the next to fall, as endless hordes poured out of Italy, overwhelming the remaining military defenses in the south. Switzerland found itself on the edge of collapse. The Alps became the absolute final physical barrier protecting Central Europe from total annihilation. Facing total defeat, the United Nations authorized the first nuclear strike since the Cold War. Italy was targeted, erasing the nation and every infected host within it from the face of the earth. The decision to destroy a founding member of the international community proved that conventional military power had reached its limit. When the only way to stop an advance was to vaporize the entire region, it was clear that the battle for the surface could not be won with traditional warfare. Records from 2024 confirm the grim scale of the disaster. Over 1 billion zombies now roam the Earth. They have effectively replaced humanity as the planet's dominant population. The virus has developed a horrific new method of reproduction. It now uses living infected hosts as egg plantations, biological incubators that allow the horde to multiply rapidly without needing new human victims. Humanity has been forced into a final defensive posture. Survivors have retreated into a network of secret underground cities. These facilities, some built long before the outbreak, have become the last bastions of civilization. This reality mirrors the original 17th century Haitian myth. The infected on the surface exist in a state of mindless, inescapable captivity, driven by a biological mutation to continue their work of expansion for all of eternity. The collapse of modern society wasn't caused by a new or unfamiliar threat. We were brought down by a monster we had spent decades convincing ourselves we already understood.